Hi, welcome to the Rewind the Timeline podcast brought to you by thetimelinemachine.com. I am your host, the Timeline King. This is the show where we go back in time and we look at all of the anniversaries that have happened this past week, whether it's 10 years, 25 years, 35 years, 50 years, etc. So for this episode, this is episode 9, we'll be going and looking at all the anniversaries that have happened from May 28th all the way up until yeah all the way up until June 3rd. Okay, so let us begin. So the first thing we have is this is 25 years ago, May 28th, 1998. We had the unfortunate and tragic death of actor Phil Hartman. Now, Phil Hartman was a member of Saturday Night Live from 1986 to 1994. I personally knew him for his role on The Simpsons. So he played Lionel Hutz and Troy McClure. Those are some of the best Simpsons characters out there. Um, I also remember him from the movie Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So Phil Hartman was the bad guy in that movie. So this guy's a great actor. He's a great comedian. And what happened on this day 25 years ago, May 28th, 1998? Phil Hartman's wife, Bryn, she came into their room and she shot him. So killed him while he was sleeping, and then she killed herself soon after. Now they never quite understood like what exactly was going on. I think she might have been having some mental problems. But yeah, I mean it was such a tragic event, and this guy died like wasn't even 40 at the time that he was killed. So it's tragic event. So let's move on to the next one. Also, the same day, 25 years ago, May 28th, 1998, we had the premiere of the play Copenhagen, um, which was written by Michael Frayn. So this one premiered at the Royal National Theatre in London, England. So this version of the play, it's centered around like a meeting between Werner Heisenberg and Niels Bohr. So see, these are like two scientists. So they met they met in, yeah they met in during World War II. So and this is supposed to be and it's always been curious like, oh hey, a German scientist is meeting with like an ally scientist. So like what could the two possibly have talked about? So there was always like a very a curiosity among scientific circles about this event. So and this play presents like a fictional encounter because I mean I don't think like we really know. Uh, Now these guys like did talk about this, but what they've said is like very contradictory. Like I think Boris himself like wrote a letter. He wrote a letter and originally it was meant to be in like a time capsule that wasn't supposed to be revealed until like 30 years later. But because of this play, like made the issue very popular, so they ended up taking the letter out earlier, and it just ends up making the issue even more confusing because it contradicts what like Heisenberg said. But like yeah, this play is just like one possibility about what it could have happened. So obviously the play's like not running anymore, but they did make like a movie version about this. I think it was like a TV movie in the early 2000s. So you can check that out. It should be up on YouTube somewhere. So go check it out. I recommend this. I think it's a good play. Talking about the nature of like good versus evil. I will say the actors, they're probably not that reminiscent of the way that Heisenberg and Bohr actually would have sounded. But yeah, I mean, you can just ignore that. Just think of it as like a regular old story. So, okay, and then next we go to May 29th. This is 175 years ago, May 29th, 1848. This is when Wisconsin first got admitted to the United States. So Wisconsin was the 30th state at this time. And man, it's hard to believe, man. At one point, we only had 30 states, and we only added 20 states since 1848, right? Isn't that crazy? Because then that means like since the United States was founded, we've it's been 75 years. 75 years we had like the majority of the U.S. states. But I've never been to Wisconsin. This is one of the places that that I want to go. But hey, happy 175 years to anybody listening to this who's from Wisconsin. Okay, and next we go to May 29th, also May 29th. This is 75 years ago, May 29th, 1948. So this is the beginning of the Casimir effect. So this is when like the Dutch physician Hendrik Casimir, he made a prediction about like quantum field theory. So and he predicted that like when two uncharged plates, they'll generate quantum field fluctuations even in a vacuum. So he tried to prove his experiment, but like it wasn't, and but like future scientists would end up doing it, and they would ultimately succeed in like 1997. But like yeah, Hendrik Casimir wanted to prove that this was possible, and ultimately ended up being true. So this is a very big event in like quantum field theory. So and hey, if one day we ever get to like stuff like time travel, space travel, stuff like this will end up being useful. All right. So next, nothing happened on May 30th, so let's just go to May 31st. We have this is 35 years ago, May 31st, 1998. We have the debut of the comic book series Animal Man. Now, Animal Man is a comic book series that was published by DC Comics. It ran from 1988 to 1995. It went for like 89 issues, 90 if you count the annual. Um, Now, anybody who hasn't recommended this, I really recommend checking this out. Animal Man is probably an obscure character to most of the people listening to this. We all know the major heroes like Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. But Animal Man was such an obscure property, and a lot of the success is owed to the writer Grant Morrison, who took like this obscure character and he really made like him such a very compelling character, somebody that you wanted to know. And for that, I would definitely recommend. I think this is honestly one of the best comic book runs out there. So yeah, happy 35 years to Animal Man and the run that made him famous. Okay, and then next we go to also May 31st. This is 10 years ago, May 31st, 2013. We had the release of two movies. First one is After Earth, which stars Will Smith and Jaden Smith, his son. Now this is a movie After Earth. It's set like in the far future where Earth is like no longer survivable. Everything on Earth has kind of evolved to has everything has kind of evolved to like think of humans as the villains because humans have just messed up Earth so bad. So Will Smith brings his son there, and then his son has to like learn to survive. I cannot recommend this movie, and they don't put this on the poster, but this movie is directed by M. Night Shyamalan. So and M. Night Shyamalan, aside from Sixth Sense, she's just been a very like hit or miss director. So I'm surprised that he still gets like he still gets like directing jobs just because like how yeah how very like inconsistent he is in terms of being a director. So this is not a movie that I can recommend. It is not a good movie at all. Even Will Smith, who's normally like very charismatic and he's really the selling point of the movie of whatever movie he's in, it does not work. He does not work in this one. So yeah, I would say in that case, just ignore this. And then we also had the movie Now You See Me, which actually is pretty good. I can recommend this one. It has an all-star cast. So Daniel Radcliffe is in it. Morgan Freeman's in it. Mark Ruffalo, Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg. So yeah, Michael Caine. So it has like a very all-star cast, and this is Yeah, and this is like a very good movie. So this was directed by Louis Leterrier, who who just recently came out with like Fast X. So if you know like the Leterrier's like directing style, like he did one of the Transporter movies. He also did The Incredible Hulk. So he's very much like focused on like action and stuff. So you, if you want like a good like action movie, I think this is one to check it out. It's like a combination of action, heist, and stuff. So yeah, so don't cannot recommend After Earth, but can recommend Now You See Me. All right. And now let's go. So we're done with the month of May. May's over. Let's go start with June. So this is June 1st, 1948, 75 years ago. We have the birth of actor Powers Booth. Now Powers Booth, yeah, he's done a bunch of roles. What I knew him as is when he played Vice President Noah Daniels on season 6 of 24. Um, and yeah, and I definitely think like like a lot of like the 24 actors like they're definitely well cast. So and he's definitely somebody who's like a great he's a great villain. Definitely comes across as very menacing. So he's also in the Avengers movie, and his character got like a bigger role. Um, from Avengers, he was in Agents of Shield. So Gideon Malik. So it's funny that character wasn't even named in the first Avengers movie, and then now like he's become like a big part of this. So yeah, yeah. So I would definitely check him out. So sadly, this guy passed away in 2017. So yeah, wasn't yeah, I think he was like only like 68 at that time. So, but yeah, yeah, he was good, good guy. Yeah, good guy, good actor, and he's done a bunch of stuff as well. He was also Gorilla God in the Justice League cartoons. So, and I'm sure like whatever you've seen, I put down Deadwood, Nashville. So he's been in a bunch of stuff. So good actor. And then same day that Powers Booth was born, so this is 75 years ago, June 1st, 1948, Winston Churchill released The Gathering Storm. So this is Winston Churchill did a memoir about his time in World War II. So it was 6 volumes. The first volume was released today. It was titled Gathering Storm. Not, I mean, it's very good to get like British the UK's perspective on like World War II. So if you want to do that, like I can definitely recommend this series. So it's yeah, it's definitely like a great series where you constantly see like, hey, how does UK who doesn't wants to avoid this conflict, how do they decide to like end up jumping into it? So this is a great series, and I recommend checking it out. And next we go to 50 years ago, same day, June 1st, 1973. So this I always like found was very interesting when I stumbled upon this. So Archie Comics, which most people know for their characters like Archie Andrews, Jughead, Betty, Veronica. So they for a brief time in the 70s and 80s they partnered with a Christian company called Spire Comics, and Spire Comics licensed those characters, the Archie characters, and they made like Christian versions of them. Yeah, and they made Christian versions of them, and then so these were just meant as like propaganda, whatever, and just to like to show people like the benefits of Christianity. And when when you read this, it's very weird because like this Christianity aspect, it's never mentioned in like the original Archie comics, but right here, like these characters are like so forthcoming about about like worshiping Jesus and God, and it definitely feels like it's definitely not something that I'm used to in the original Archie comics. So that's just what made them very notable. Now this was like done back in the 70s, and I gotta say, like I cannot imagine something like this being done like today, this day and age. I feel like we as the world society, we've just become like so polarized. So something like this, if this would have been done, if it would definitely go all over like Twitter, and it would create create a bunch of hate from people like who disprove this. So yeah, yeah, and but it's definitely a good notable part in history. So if you're able to ever hunt down any of these comics, I would say check it out just for the novelty factor of it. So and just think about like what could have been in the Archie world. All right, and then next we get to 35 years ago. This is June 1st, 1988. We have the release of the James Bond novel Scorpius. So Scorpius is the seventh James Bond novel by John Gardner. Um, Now, a lot of like Gardner's writing style, it's not he tends to emulate the Bond movies more than like the original Bond novels. So he tries to do like big action, big set pieces, which was never really like Bond while Ian Fleming was there. Um, but I did read this one, but I can't exactly remember like what happened in it. Um, which probably goes to show you that it's not that good. So for that, I could say probably just skip this one. Okay. So and then next we go to June 2nd, 1973. This is 50 years ago. So Kevin Feige was born. So this is the 50th birthday of Kevin Feige. And so actually, while researching this, I didn't know he was born in Boston, Massachusetts. So good old Boston boy. Although I think now I can kind of understand he does have a bit of a New England accent. So now Feige is known today for being the president of Marvel Studios, and he's really the one like who ushered in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and which gave us like some of the best like comic book movies of all time, and some of the greatest moments in comic book history, like that end scene in Avengers Endgame. It's like probably one of the best scenes, if not the best, in all of like comic book movies. So, and Feige really like learned how to like become a producer by like he worked on the other Marvel movies prior. Like he worked on the original X-Men trilogy, he worked on the original Spider-Man trilogy, Hulk, Punisher. So I think from there he definitely got an idea of like, okay, what works, what doesn't work. Okay, this is what we should do, what we shouldn't do. And he does like in his movies he does try to like be as faithful to the source material as possible. I don't feel like all of the MCU movies have been great, but I definitely think like they have been more consistent than other franchises such as Spider-Man and X-Men. And I feel like a lot of that is definitely owed to Kevin Feige and his strong hand. Now, sadly, like Phase 4 has kind of like fallen aside, and I think a lot of it just has to do with like a lack in direction. I'm not sure how much that is Kevin Feige's fault, how much of it was because of the COVID pandemic or the Disney Plus shows. So, but I think we should honor Feige for like his hand in making the MCU what it was, making it that juggernaut that was there for the past 11 years. So yeah, happy 50th birthday to him. And then, so this is also on June 2nd, 10 years ago, June 2nd, 2013. This is one of the best episodes of Game of Thrones aired. This is the Reigns of Castamere, which is commonly referred to in fandom as the Red Wedding. Now, I never got a chance to see Game of Thrones when it came out. But I did binge watch the show recently. So I binge watched the show over the course of 3 months, and my thoughts on Game of Thrones, I felt like it was a little slow in the beginning because you just have like so much introduction of characters, so much world building. But once you get past that point and you really get like invested in this world and invested in these characters, and yeah, and it just like it really hits at you like what they do with these characters. Now, thankfully, like I didn't have much spoilers like much spoilers like before I finally watched the show. I knew about the Red Wedding, or rather I knew that there was something called the Red Wedding, but I never actually knew like what it was or like what happened there. So, and I'm very thankful that that moment never got spoiled for me, because like seeing this episode, just like my jaw just dropped. It was like it was amazing. It was like one of the best written, one of the best acted, one of the most harrowing episodes in like all of television. And you really got to commend like whoever directed this episode. It was David Nutter. I think he did a bunch of like X-Files episodes. So we really got to commend that and whoever wrote this. And I gotta say, like, yeah, I don't want to spoil this for anybody, so I'm not even gonna talk about this. But watch Game of Thrones, and I gotta say, watch Game of Thrones from the beginning, and it's definitely worth it to get to this episode, which is like one of the best episodes in television history. Okay, and then lastly, we get to June 3rd in 1988. So this is 35 years ago. We have the release of the movie Big, which stars Tom Hanks. Now now this is one of those movies where, like, you have a kid who's like 13, 14, wants to be an adult. So and then one day he gets up and becomes an adult body. Um, yeah, and watching this movie like now, it certainly gives you a sense of how much like sensibilities have changed because you have this little kid, he goes to be an adult, and he's like flirting with women, and then I think there's like a scene where he gets into a relationship with a woman, and you definitely got to see like with the way that the society has changed. I can't imagine a movie like this being made. I don't feel like it would fly in today's audience. So it definitely goes to show you how much the world has changed since the 80s. Or maybe the world has always been like this, but just like, Twitter and social media have definitely made people's opinions get more pronounced. But I mean, I like this movie when I saw it. But however, I don't really feel like it holds up that well to modern sensibilities. So that's the thing. Um, and I guess that's it for the week. So we've like covered all the anniversaries that we've talked about. Now, while from May 28th. We've covered all the anniversaries from May 28th up until June 3rd. So I did get a chance to see a couple of movies this week. The first movie I saw was The Little Mermaid. Now, The Little Mermaid, there was like so much controversy surrounding this movie, like before it got released. So I've always been like skeptical from the beginning. So but the real what really motivated me to go see this was that back when Halle Bailey was cast, right? I got curious about like how many times like Disney has had a black princess, and nobody else has done like an article like that online. So I went and did one myself for the website. It's there now. It's called the Timeline of Black Disney Princesses, and it ended up listing like all the times like Disney has cast a black actor to play a princess, um, and and that article like surprisingly was a hit. It's like it is the most popular page on the website. So I ended up like watching. I ended up feeling like, okay, so this movie, which I was initially skeptical with, I do have an obligation to now watch this. So I went and checked it out, and like again, the controversy has been there since Ariel was first cast in 2019, Halle Bailey, and with the general attitude with these Disney live action remakes, like Beauty and the Beast wasn't anything special, Aladdin wasn't anything special, Lion King wasn't anything special. Even if you think like those were all like good movies, like they're still not as good as the original animated movies. So I was kind of expecting something like that. And yeah, and I mean, yeah, I kind of got what I was expecting. It's just, the live action Little Mermaid, it is not a great movie. I cannot recommend it. So I definitely cannot recommend paying full price to go see it in theaters like I did. This is probably one of those movies that's like, okay, more better suited for Disney Plus. So, and it's just hard to like list all the problems with this movie. So, but I mean, I'll do my best. I think the main thing is, so let me start off with Halle Bailey, right? So I think she's a great singer. Like I liked her rendition of "Part of Your World." I think that's a great performance. That I might even like that one better than the original. But I don't feel like she is a good actress though. And while Halle Bailey is a good singer, like keep in mind, majority of the movie, like Ariel is still silent. I probably should have mentioned like spoilers for this movie. Um, Yeah, Ariel is still silent. So, and because of that, like because Ariel is silent, it's like Halle Bailey has to more rely on her physicality and stuff. So, and there were a couple of movies where I kind of felt like, there's some kind of chemistry with her, but I think a lot of the movies, like her facial expressions, her movements, like it doesn't yeah, I didn't really feel like that sense of emotion could come across, like the way that I did in the animated movie, where like Ariel just had more life to her, like more energy. You could tell what she was thinking, and I was just thinking, man, I feel more emotion with those 2D drawings than I do like in the actual live action performance. So yeah, and then that was it, and let's go on into like the CGI. This the original is like very bright and colorful, but this new one, like the underwater just feels so lifeless, and it just feels so fake looking, especially when you compare it to other movies like what was it, Avatar: The Way of the Water. That yeah, that underwater was like very great, and also Aquaman, which also like had more life to it. And I think Aquaman kind of just delved into like the very colorful aspect of it, even though it doesn't make a lot of real world sense. I feel like Little Mermaid should have just done the same thing. They should have had gone for a more stylized look instead of trying to make these animals look so realistic and lifelike, which I don't feel really makes sense for like the show, and I'm sorry, the movie and what the movie is trying to do. So it's yeah, it's a shame. So and I think that's why. And there's also like a bunch of changes in this movie to the original animated version, and yeah, and I think like a lot of these changes were done for modern sensibilities. But the problem is like when you change these things, you're not replacing it with anything better. So one of the big changes that I talk about that I noticed when seeing the movie, like Ariel doesn't really have a crush on Eric anymore. So her desire to go to the world is just more about like her fascination with humanity, wanting to explore humanity. But but you take that out, that's fine. But like you still keep the Ursula requiring her to get the kiss from Eric, and it doesn't really make sense if she doesn't really have a crush on him. So when you make these changes, it's like, okay, you change half of it, but you don't change the other half, and that change kind of shows a lot about this movie. It's just like, they kind of go half in and then half out, and you either go all the way or like you don't. So it's yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. It just and I mean, there was just a lot of like small problems like that, and that's why I can't recommend it. Uh, no, no. Funny enough, I do see a lot of people like talking online. I do see some people liking it, so your mileage might vary on this, but it's not a movie that I can recommend. Like how, yeah, I would say skip it. And let's go to the other movie that I saw, which is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, I'm not as huge of a fan of the first Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, as a lot of other people are. I think that movie, while I thought it had some good moments, what I really disliked was the villain, Kingpin. I didn't feel like he was a compelling villain in that movie. But I thought like I liked the general premise. I liked that the actors were good, and the characters. It made me care about the characters. But I didn't. Overall, I didn't. Like the. I would not rate that movie as highly as everybody. I know a lot of people claim that Spider Verse is like the best Spider Man movie, and I'm just like, no, no. Spider Man Two is the best Spider Man movie. Into the Spider Verse is not. Now, Across the Spider Verse, though, I genuinely did enjoy it. Now, I'm going to go into a bit of a spoilers here, so if you want just to turn it off. Now, this movie ends on a cliffhanger, so it's not really resolved like at the end what happens. So there is a lot of setup, and there's sometimes where I do feel like the movie is a little bloated, and it does feel dragged. But I think I can give it the benefit of the doubt a little bit right now, because we're still going to get like part two, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, which is supposed to come out next year. So I think like it's hard for me to say like, oh, they could have cut out this scene because I don't know what's going to become relevant in the next one. But as far as like this movie itself, I think I liked it. I liked what it set up. I liked what it did with the characters. So, and like I mentioned Game of Thrones earlier, and it's very much like Game of Thrones, where it's like you know you accept the build up, you like the character development, and you hope that it leads to a good payoff down the road, which I hope we do get in Beyond the Spider Verse coming out next year. You know, if we do, then we might actually get like a good superhero trilogy for once. So yeah, and that's it. So so my and do not see The Little Mermaid. Wait for that on Disney Plus, and even that don't watch it. But do check out Across the Spider Verse. So you do need to see the first Spider Verse movie. So watch Into the Spider Verse first, and then Across from the Spider Verse. So yeah, don't see Little Mermaid. Check out Into the Spider Verse, and yeah, and I think that's it for this week, this episode, episode 9. So thank you to everybody who is listening to this, and have a good rest of the day. Okay, and remember, keep rewinding the timeline. Bye.